Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right, everybody. Thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I let you know what I thought about them, and we always start with the pick of the week, and this week's pick of the week, Rare Flavors, issue number 4 from Boom Studios. Now, this is written by Robbie with artwork by Felipe Andrade, and you know that I'm a big fan of their work individually and their work together. For instance, this is kind of a spiritual successor of sorts to The Many Deaths of Layla Starr, which was my favorite book when it came out that year, and this is an excellent follow-up. Once again, playing with Indian mythology, playing with life, humanity, the vibe of life, the culture of life, the flavor of life, if you will, right? So this is about this dude. He's like a demon from Indian mythology who likes to eat people, and he's kind of found his way into the human world, and he's kind of a connoisseur of sorts of food and culture and people and their lives. And this is a big explainy issue where you get kind of the whole background as to how he wound up wandering the earth, how he wound up taking on this new motivation and inspiration, and you start seeing some more of the more non-linear, disparate elements of this story start coalesce into something more cohesive and very exciting. Once again, it contains a recipe that has a relation to the theme of not just the book, but the actual individual chapter that's being gone through here. So about the revelation of this character's background and how it's connected to humanity as a whole and how it's connected to our main character Mo, who is the filmmaker going around with this demon people eater, and he just found out about it. Really cool stuff, amazing artwork from Felipe Andrade. Absolutely solid stuff. If you would have told me that there was a book that each issue spotlighted some recipe, related it to the story and the history of the culture in which we're talking about thematically, as well as told a whimsical, fun, and charming story that had deep resonance, I would say, I bet that's a Robbie Felipe Andrade book, and it is. Rare Flavors, issue number 4. That's the pick of the week. Also, giving it the cover of the week. Excellent use of color here, excellent use of composition, technique. It's kind of got this like pastel-y, loose kind of texture to it. Absolutely love it. All right, from Marvel Comics, we have What If Venom issue number 1. This is a new mini-series. Instead of just having an ongoing What If series, doing different things, they do these mini-series now, right? This is one mini-series that's threaded all together, so it's telling one complete story, and it's basically what if Venom possessed She-Hulk. So instead of Eddie Brock, what if it was Jennifer Walters as She-Hulk that the Venom symbiote wound up attached to? It does have certain ties to like some of that continuity that we know and love, and that's something that What If always did well, was it took familiar stories and kind of showed you a darker spin and twist on them. This one is just kind of it's just become a multiverse story at this point. So in this reality, the symbiote is going for Eddie Brock, but Jennifer Walters is there, chooses Jennifer Walters instead, and it all gets wrapped up into something else. It was written just fine, it had a decent pace to it, but overall it didn't really completely capture me, compel me, or thrill me, so I thought it was just kind of okay. Then we got Spider-Punk Arms Race issue number 1, a new Spider-Punk miniseries written by Cody Ziegler, who I do believe did the last Spider-Punk series. I only read the first couple issues of that. Spider-Punk's an interesting character, but I don't know, there's something about his world and his vibe that just doesn't quite click with me, and that's okay. But I tell you what, the artwork in this book was absolutely top-notch. Justin Mason fills this with some really great energy, some great texture, and some really whacked out backgrounds. And it also focuses in on the Dr. Octopus of the Spider-Punk world. I found that to be kind of exciting, but for the most part, kind of like the What If Venom, it didn't really completely compel me, but it wasn't super bad, and the artwork was really solid. Then we got Amazing Spider-Man 44. This is the end of the gang war. A very satisfying conclusion as far as the result of the gang war. It's something that you can see coming, especially after the last issue, and I do like the setup. The issue's execution was kind of frantic, kind of abrupt, kind of all over the place. John Romita Jr. is one of my favorite artists, but here lately on Amazing Spider-Man, there's just something with the inking, the coloring, something that's oversimplifying his line work already that's just not working for me. So Amazing Spider-Man, once again, just continues to be a little up and a little bit down. It's inconsistent. Gang War turned out to be a bit of a disappointment, though even though narratively, I did like how this sets us up for the next phase of Zeb Wells' run on Amazing Spider-Man. So I'm not out of it yet, but it was just aight. It was just aight. Then we got Miles Morales Spider-Man issue number 17. Cody Ziegler's been doing a great job with this book. Unfortunately, it keeps getting completely sidetracked by having to tie into events or have to entertain crossovers, right? And so I've been critical of the book, editorially speaking, because this book's never really been able to find its footing, tell its story, and maintain a focus, but Cody Ziegler's been trying to do that the entire time. So he's been threading in bits here, threading in bits there, and now we're starting to get a peak culmination as we're nearing the end of his arc. He, of course, is now over at Deadpool, ending his run on Miles Morales Spider-Man's what I hear for an upcoming relaunch. Maybe that's true, that's what I've heard. But Miles Morales Spider-Man issue 17 starts putting all these pieces together. These villains, these narrative plot threads that seem disparate and that they're not going to actually be able to reach a culmination, actually start reaching a fever pitch culmination here at issue number 17. Some guest artists on here, they try to do that dynamic style that this book is known for, and for the most part they do it, but not quite as clean or sophisticated as what we've come to expect in this book. But Miles Morales Spider-Man 17, I did like that. Avengers Twilight issue number 3 was awesome. This book was rad. Now, it's been billed as kind of like the Dark Knight Returns of Captain America or the Avengers. It's not really, don't think of it like that, right? I don't think the ambitions of this book are that high. Technically speaking, we're moving the craft forward, but what it's doing is telling us a really solid Captain America-centric Avengers story set in the future. The world's kind of like run by this like totalitarian government. Captain America is come out of retirement. He has taken the super soldier serum again so that he can come out and fight against this totalitarian government and the way that they're controlling the people. And Tony Stark's son is one of them, right? So you get a big climactic battle with him, that Tony Stark's son and Captain America, and here other Avengers start joining the fray, and then ending that just had me be like, yes! Chip Zdarsky's doing a great job with this book, but Daniel Acuna is doing an even better job with the artwork, and the coloring is absolutely amazing. Even some of the talking parts, they sizzle with energy, but let me tell you something. The layouts, the composition, the storytelling, the artwork, everything about that side of the visual storytelling absolutely rocks. This was a really, really solid comic, and 3 issues in, it has really solidified itself as one of the best Marvel comics out right now. Then we got Punisher issue number 4. This is an end to this new Punisher book. Joe Garrison now is the Punisher. I hope that's his name. Let me double check. Yeah, Joe Garrison, his wife and kids were murdered. He's following the leads as to who's responsible. The police and the government feel like he's responsible, so he's having to dodge that. He finds out there's this thing called the Jigsaw Corporation, and it all comes to a really satisfying conclusion here in the 4th issue that not only cements Joe Garrison in the Marvel Universe as the new Punisher, but also sets up a little bit about where this character can go forward. I really like the setup of the world, the people surrounding Joe. Joe is never going to be Frank Castle. And I don't think Joe's intended to be Frank Castle. He's just somebody who can carry on that mantle for Frank while he's gone, right? And it's not something that he chose to do, but it's almost like it chose him. And that kind of relates to the theme of the Punisher even. But I really liked it. I really liked this book. I thought it was super solid. The character of Joe Garrison has depth to him, and the story and the world surrounding him is completely compelling, and I cannot wait for this book to return eventually. Again, David Pepose and company have absolutely done the impossible with this book of keeping it fresh and interesting, even though it seems like a near impossible task to take on a Punisher book where you're introducing a new character as the Punisher. automatically you're going to get people to hate you for that. Then we got Giant Size Fantastic Four, issue number 1. This is the 50th anniversary of the Giant Size Marvel stuff from the 70s, so it's going to be threaded through a lot of books this year. Think of it like an annual, but it's a giant size, so each one's going to have a standalone story. I guess it will stand alone as much as the creators or the editors want them to, and also a reprint of a classic comic. So they did the Giant Size Miles Morales one, and the back of that had one of his early Ultimate comics. So this is Giant Size Fantastic Four, introducing a new villain into the world of Fantastic Four. Is written by Fabian Nicieza, and it absolutely works. The name of the story is Imperious Rex. This character has ties to Atlantis, a little bit of ties to Namor. It's really good. It was a nice, solid, fun Fantastic Four comic. Now, I know a lot of people are vibing with Fantastic Four right now. The Ryan North stuff is all right. Doesn't always hit for me, but I really liked what Fabian did here. I liked the artwork as well. It was solid all the way through. It kept me entertained. I thought this was an interesting character. I want to see more of this character, so I'm here for it. I really like this issue, and it reprints Fantastic Four 33 in the back, which is the first appearance of Atuma. So that's kind of appropriate too. So all in all, a really solid self-contained issue of the Fantastic Four. Then we got some reprints, some facsimiles from Marvel, including Secret Wars issue number 2. This is the Secret Wars from the 80s, written by Jim Shooter with Mike Zeck on the artwork. I love this stuff, but why I'm even more excited is because they're reprinting the entire series with foil covers, and I'm a nut for that, and I'm here for that, and I'm gonna get them all. That's what I'm going to do. I love the idea of Marvel taking some of their classic runs, some of their classic miniseries, and reprinting them. Like stuff from the 80s, stuff from the 70s. Go back further. You know, they did this with Wolverine number 1 by Frank Miller and Chris Claremont. Do all 4. Do all 4 in foil. You'll make a lot of money. You can have that idea for free. Just send me some free copies. Anyway, Secret Wars is here with the foil edition for issue number 2. Then we got a new facsimile of Uncanny X-Men 268. This is very appropriately timed because you got the Wolverine Madripoor Knights thing going on right now. So this is relevant to that. If you've never gotten a chance to pick up this book, I do have the original, but it's going to be cool also to have that nice foil edition. There are non-foil editions for those as well. Let's jump over to DC Comics. We got Detective Comics here with 1082. We are in the final act of Ram V's Detective Comics run, and it has been sweeping. It has been operatic. It has been truly awesome. I have loved this. Now you got Riccardo Federici on some of the book here, and very much appropriate for the tone of what's going on. It's kind of like a nightmarish hellscape mentally that Batman's going through as he's confronted by Dr. Hurt. I love how Ram has been playing with things that are basically coming from the Grant Morrison run and doing some interesting new things with it. The tie-in to Dr. Hurt, who is he? Barbados. There's also some Renee Montoya question bits in here, and the backup story by Dan Waters involving Dr. Hurt and his victims. Really solid stuff. I am loving this run. I think it's going to be a perennial evergreen run. Then we got Green Arrow issue number 9. Really solid issue of Green Arrow. So Josh Williamson knows the architecture of the DC Universe and the future of the DC Universe, right? So at the end of Beast World, we were shown Amanda Waller consolidating power, and the only person who realizes all of the manipulations and the things that have been going on behind the scenes that Amanda's been doing is Oliver. Oliver's back from his stint across through time. He comes back, he's like, yo, I can see that the Justice League's being picked apart. People are being manipulated. Amanda Waller's behind it. So he goes after Amanda Waller, and it doesn't quite go the way I thought it was going to go, but it's very much tied into the ongoing narrative thread of the DC Universe, and Josh Williamson does a great job of taking the character of Oliver, the character of Amanda, making that dynamic work, doing something interesting that's not easily foreseeable, and at the same time respecting the legacy of all the Green Arrow runs that came before. Green Arrow number 9, I'm having fun with that. Then we got the Penguin here with issue number 7. Tom King's been doing a really great job on the Penguin. I've been loving it. The first issue didn't sell me. I really came around on 2. 3 and 4 were great. 5 and 6, we'll see what's happening here, because Tom King's kind of recontextualizing some stuff about the rise of the Penguin and power and how that relates to his, let's call it, problematic relationship with Batman. There's some interesting kind of bold things being done here, but at the same time it almost makes Batman seem stupid and the Penguin smarter. Now, I get that, and it's like flipping the dynamic that we're typically used to, and it also does fill in some gaps of that relationship and that dynamic between the Penguin and Batman that actually does make sense. How far are we taking this? How do I actually feel about it? I'm trying to skirt around it, not spoil it too much. I'll talk about it more like on a live stream or something when I've had a couple drinks and I don't care about spoiling stuff. But Penguin, I'm enjoying, but this newest arc, which is going back and kind of like I said, recontextualizing the rise of the Penguin to power and how Batman's involved in that, but it almost paints Batman as being kind of stupid. So we'll see what happens once this all shakes out, but I still like this book, still like the artwork. It's a guest artist in this issue and the one before, but man, the way he draws Oswald is absolutely creepy. Then we got The Flash here with issue number 6. This book, throughout most of it, was absolutely bonkers confusing. I had no clue what the hell was going on. I mean, simply speaking, Barry Allen shows up. Barry and Wally kind of have a friction between them. Wally's kind of acting I don't know, like childlike around Barry, and Barry's kind of acting like a complete dick. And then by the end of the issue, there's a lot of like ramifications and revelations. And by the end of it, I really liked it. But I'm going to tell you something. I was lost throughout this book. Cy Spurrier's playing with some really crazy physics, metaphysical, super science type stuff, and I'm here for that. It's confusing and it's challenging, and that's the kind of, if you're gonna take that kind of approach on Flash, like, go for it, bruh. Go for it. I'm here for it. I'm not ashamed to say that I was confused as hell by this book, but by the end of it, I still want to come back and read the next issue. I think this is something that's going to reward continuously new readings of that material. Then we got Jay Garrick, The Flash, issue number 5. I've been loving this new Golden Age stuff. This is explaining the mystery of Boom. Boom is Jay Garrick's daughter. How is she a kid? Well, it's all been explained in like the Stargirl Lost Children and the sidekicks from the Golden Age and all this kind of stuff. But what this is also doing is not just reintroducing or introducing for the first time that character to readers and to the world of Jay Garrick, the world of the modern DCU, but it's also fleshing out some of that new Golden Age stuff, letting us know what happened before, what happened since, and what's happening now. It's good, classic DC superhero Golden Age type stuff set in the modern reality. Jay Garrick, The Flash, issue number 5. Really like that. Let's jump over to Image. And from Image, we got Duke issue number 3. You know, I was just praising Josh Williamson's work on Green Arrow, and now I got to give him some more praise for his work on Duke. Along with Cobra Commander, he's doing a great job of reinvigorating the G.I. Joe franchise and doing the near impossible. Something that's been difficult for most comic books and movies. Hollywood can't even do this right, and that's updating G.I. Joe, making it still feel true to the core root of the characters and the concept, but also being fresh, vibrant, action-packed, and fun. These Energon books are straight up fun. They all have a kind of different vibe. Cobra Commander's got a more gnarly, visceral, horror, sci-fi, weird science kind of approach to it. Transformers, this big, epic, sprawling space battle that's been really put down on Earth in a very small and nuanced way. And here in Duke, we get the classic, like, Jason Bourne type stuff, secret agent, man on the run, building a team, all these factions coming together. You got new appearances by familiar faces in new ways, but very familiar ways. Really cool stuff here. And yes, the Baroness is involved. Duke, can he trust her? We know he can't. He knows he can't. But sometimes he absolutely has to. Tom Riley does a great job with the artwork here, just really making it just pop with energy and excitement and momentum and movement and just holy freaking cow, this book is awesome. The coloring by Jordi Belair is some of the best work I've seen from her recently. Duke, awesome. The entire Energon universe is awesome. Then we got the Ice Cream Man here with issue number 30-something, 38. It's been a while since we've had an issue of Ice Cream Man, and it was well worth the wait. This is about the world of Gary. Once again, Ice Cream Man, these weird, surreal, horror kind of stories about hope and despair. It's about the human experience, and this one's kind of about I mean, we can get into the theme of what this book is about, but narratively speaking, what this book is about is this land of Gary. Everybody is the same dude. They're different Garys. They all eat the same thing. They all have menial jobs that seem to be fruitless. There's no reason for it. And then whenever one of them starts questioning what's actually going on here, they get taken out. And then one of them starts trying to solve the mystery of what's happening to the missing Garys. And it relates to how we feel sometimes in our world, in our identity. Sometimes our identity, there's so many different pieces of us, and sometimes we can't seem to get them all pulled together. Sometimes we feel like we're just part of this race that's not going anywhere, and if we question why we're even doing the things that we're doing, like, we kind of get lambasted for it. So it's playing with some of those ideas in a typical Ice Cream Man way. W. Maxwell Prince, Chris O'Halloran, Martin Morazzo, and good old Neon, they do what they do every single issue of Ice Cream Man, and it's one of the best comics on shelves, 100%. Then we got Phantom Road here with issue number 9. This has been a simple Jeff Lemire story that just took a turn. In the last issue of Phantom Road, we found out what this mysterious artifact actually was that they are now tasked with transporting across the country. And there's all this stuff from this other dimension bleeding through. There's lots of mysteries going on, but it's been really simple, kind of road chase type thing, right? This issue, after the revelation of the last issue, ramps everything up. We learn more about the characters. We learn more about the MacGuffin that is this artifact. We learn more about how it's all tied into the full-on narrative that's moving this story forward, and it is freaking awesome. The artwork is great. The story is great. The characters are there. With Jeff Lemire, sometimes everybody says it. These are like a slow burn. But then when you let that slow burn burn and it burns you, you get burned in really good ways. Then we got Worldtree here with issue number 8. I almost skipped out on it because Worldtree 1 through 5, that first arc, I loved it. Issue 6 and 7, I felt lost. I felt like I didn't remember who these characters were. I had a struggle to remember what had just happened in the book and what the vibe and tone of the book was about. It felt like something was missing. But I read issue number 8, and let me tell you something. This book was awesome. I loved issue number 8. I felt like this was the issue we needed maybe for issue 6. It really caught me back up on who these people are, what's going on, how it's related to everything, and the ultimate threat, and why I thought this book was one of the best books of last year. It all comes rushing back here in issue number 8, a fantastic issue that has me definitely inspired to go back and reread through all of Worldtree and get caught back up and see the flow of that story. Then we've got Hack Slash Back to School issue number 3. Zoe Thorogood doing a solid job on a Hack Slash book. I've never really read too much Hack Slash. I tried to jump in here and there, but it never really quite captured my attention. But the art of Zoe Thorogood really does capture my attention. There's also some really gnarly stuff in here, some really gross monsters, some really disturbing images, and at the same time, some really sexy stuff. Now, I love that I was on a sexy page when I said there's some gnarly stuff. Now I'm on a gnarly page when I say there's some sexy stuff. But really cool stuff here. The story's all right. It's decent. It kind of gets bogged down a little bit in some overly verbose, where it gets overly verbose at times. Like I was trying to say overly verbosity, but that doesn't work that way. That's being overly verbose. That's me, but I can do this. I just got a YouTube channel. Anyway, Hack Slash Back to School. Love the art. Story's pretty cool too, but it's the art that really sells it for me. Zoe Thorogood is quite a talent in this industry. Then we've got the Savage Sword of Conan, issue number 1. Titans relaunch of the Savage Sword of Conan, and like the old school one, they are big, giant, thick, black and white comics with multiple stories. Now, I only read the first story in here. I flipped through the rest, though. So this is rather large. It's $6.99. This thing's like 80 pages or something, or over 80 pages. It is awesome. As far as value go, it absolutely rocks, and it's on that newsprint, so it gets the smell of the week. Oh, glorious newsprint. The problem with it, though, is this. Make sure there is a naked person on that page. All right, one of the problems, though, is that the black and white artwork on some of the stories, not all of them, but mainly this main story right here, which is a solid story, and it's got some cool looking artwork, but for the most part, some of this prints really dark. Like, they're using these gray tones. They're computer generated. You can tell they're kind of like gradients or something. But when you're reading it on the page, it just doesn't look like it quite printed clearly. And there's just some really dark pages that basically it all just gets muddied out, right? But then you got other stuff like Patch Zurcher does a bit at the end, and it's a Solomon Kane story, and it's not as bad there. There's also like a short prose story in here. There's an introduction from Roy Thomas. It's really solid. I liked it. The only problem is it was the printing. I don't think it's the art itself, but it just didn't print on this paper so well. It does come across a little murky, muddy, and too dark, but it's got a wonderful smell. It's one of the best deals you're going to see. You got a lot of content here, and if you are like me and you reminisce about sneaking into your dad's closet and pulling out a Savage Tale or Savage Sword of Conan and reading those things when they're gone to play bingo or at the bar, then you're like me, and this is going to bring back all of that stuff. We also got Conan the Barbarian here with issue number 8, another satisfying issue of Conan the Barbarian. The artwork by Doug Braithwaite is absolutely fantastic. I love the coloring. The use of color here is really making this book pop. I really like this story. I like what's going on in this world of Conan. I like how it's all tying and leading into something bigger where they don't just feel like disconnected stories, though I'm cool with that too, but everything feels like it's got a purpose, and it's playing with Conan's past, present, and possibly even future. A shocking ending, but we'll see what happens in the next one. But Conan the Barbarian continues to impress. Then we got Fire and Ice Teegra, issue number 1. This is a one-shot from Dynamite Comics. They've been doing the Fire and Ice book, written by Bill Willingham. Bill Willingham is writing this one. This last weekend, me and some friends just watched Fire and Ice for the first time. So now I understand a little bit more about what's going on. I liked it. It's about Teegra. She finds out that her father's trying to wed her off to some other house or something, so she escapes, loses her clothes, gets into some trouble, and then gets taken back home. It's just a nice little prequel side adventure type thing that doesn't have any ultimate ramifications for what Fire and Ice is, but it's a good excuse to have a Teegra-centric story and have a lot of booty on the page. So I thought it was pretty solid. Then we got Darkwing Duck with Negaduck, issue number 4. Love that Jay Lee cover. Love this book. Negaduck has figured out how to claim the Midas glove, and now he's got the power to turn anything he wants into gold, but very quickly, it turns sour for him. I love what Jeff Parker and company are doing on this book. It's got that classic vibe of the classic Darkwing Duck cartoon and the comics, but it's just got a great sense of fun, and it's having fun, and I'm having fun reading it. So Negaduck was really cool. Then we've got Crashdown, issue number 2. This is from our good buddies Comic Tom 101 and Fire Guy Ryan. Ben Templesmith on the artwork and the lettering. Really liked this second issue. I was worried in the first issue that maybe some of the characters would be a bit too cliche. Maybe the story was going to be a little bit too simple. No, they start changing all of that in issue number 2. There's a lot more depth and dimension given to these characters and to the plot that's going on, because now there's this like general or commander captain kind of dude who's involved in things, and he's being shady and he's being all messed up and out of whack, and you add that into the whole idea of what's going on, which is basically Lost but in space, like the show Lost but in space. Not Lost in space, but Lost in space. I think Ryan likes it when you call it Lost in space. So these people are crash landing on this planet filled with some kind of Cthulhu-esque Lovecraftian horror, and you also got the power, some people up there like making some bad decisions, acting all shady and shit. But Crashdown, another really solid issue. I thought the art was great. The pacing of it was more improved in the first issue. Every little tiny nitpick I had in the first issue gets completely ironed out here in the second. They do not fall into the sophomore slump. Crashdown issue number 2 improves on the first issue and gets me really excited with what it's doing to ramp up the tension and build that momentum into the rest of this series. Then we've got Canary here with issue number 3. First of all, Dan Panosian on the artwork, freaking awesome. Dan's artwork here is gnarly. It's cool. This is a Western horror kind of thing written by Scott Snyder, but the artwork, including the coloring, it is really like the height. It is what really soars in this book. Really cool, gnarly stuff. Because of its release schedule, where it's coming out in these big, thick editions, only like every couple of months, I kind of lost where we're at in the story and who these characters are, so I want to sit down and read it all the way through. But like a lot of Scott Snyder stuff, it gets super exposition-y by the end, and they tell more than they show, though when they do show stuff, it's Dan Panosian, and it rocks. You know, I've been reading, or I should say rereading, some Prophet stuff from the 90s that Dan Panosian did. You've come a long, long way to get... I messed up the song. Anyway, Canary as a story, I thought the ending was just okay, but the art was amazing. Same thing here, Godzilla, War for Humanity. This is issue number 4. This book's been infrequent too. The main story with the characters, with the human characters, I don't really care about as much, but Jake Smith's artwork here, with all the kaiju stuff, I could just stare at these pages for days and days and days, and we got some big moments here. Mothra attacking, you got Godzilla, you got this, I don't even remember the name of that big bad guy that's on the cover there, but really solid artwork, big explosive stuff. When you get to the human stuff, I don't care as much, but man, I could look at that artwork all day long. Jake Smith is someone I will definitely be paying attention to for the rest of his career. Then we got The Nasty, issue number 7, the penultimate issue of The Nasty from John Lees over at Vault Comics. This is a solid book about the love of horror and the love that John Lees has for horror and what it means to fans of horror like him or me, or to our community as horror fans together and united, and how we've had to overcome so much judgment, and we've had to overcome so much bullshit out there with people thinking that we're like sleazy, like slimy, like gross people because we love these sleazy, slimy, gross movies, but maybe there's a reason for that. So I really like this book because it's playing on that puritanical view on sleaze that I don't like. In fact, it makes me like sleaze even more. So The Nasty is right up my alley. A nice, charming, sentimental issue as well, as we find out what it takes when you, or what happens when you finally confront your inner horror child inside. So John Lees is doing a great job with that. Then we got the Ribbon Queen here with issue number 8, the final issue. Jason Burrows, Garth Ennis. I will say about the entire series what I've said about most issues. And I said this in issue 1, issue 2, issue 3, issue 4, and then I felt like the book kind of lost its way a little bit and kind of got a little overstretched, right? This is what I'll say. The book overextends itself. It takes too much time to do certain things. This should not have been 8 issues. 6 issues, I think you could have done this a lot better. But just like some individual issues, it feels kind of dull, feels kind of boring, and then all of a sudden, it gets really hype and gnarly at the end, and it leaves you wanting more. That's what the individual issues of this book did, including the final issue, issue number 8, and it's what the entire series did. So it's just okay. I do feel like it wasted too much time. I think this could have been shortened. Maybe even a 5-issue series of this would have really helped some of those ideas hit harder and have more of an impact. Anyway, so that's what I read. That's what I thought. What are you reading? What are you thinking? Let us know in the comments down below. Please do like, share, and subscribe. And to recap real quick, The Ribbon Queen, kind of overextended, but it does have some cool stuff in it. The Nasty's a nice love letter to horror movies and a nice FU to puritanical views on horror movies. Godzilla, War for Humanity has got some amazing art. Canary's got some good art, but the story just didn't quite get me right there. Crashdown was a really solid improvement on an already solid issue number 1. Negaduck does what Negaduck does, and that's be fun. Fire and Ice, Teegra, good excuse to have a book with a lot of booty in it. Then we got Conan the Barbarian. Excellent stuff that Jim Zub is doing over in the pages of Conan the Barbarian. Savage Sword of Conan, a little bit dark on some of the printing. Outside of that, though, a great deal. Lots of content for $7. Zoe Thorogood on Back to School, Hack Slash. Yeah, I'm all down for that. Super gross and super sexy. That's my vibe. Worldtree really clicked for me on this issue and got me excited again. Phantom Road, that was the best issue of that one yet. Ice Cream Man continues to amaze and surprise. Duke just rocks. Duke just rocks. Jay Garrick Flash is a really solid and consistent book. Flash is really challenging and hard to comprehend, but I think it's going to be worth it to stick it through. Penguin, I'm liking this book. I'm not quite sold on what Tom King's doing here with the revelations on Penguin's past, but I'm withholding judgment. We'll see how it pans out. Green Arrow's doing a really great job of tying directly into the narrative of the DCU, leading into the next stuff. Detective Comics, Ron V being Ron V on Detective Comics, and I'm here for it. Some nice foil facsimiles from Marvel Comics because we're nerds and we grew up in the 90s. Then we got Giant Size Fantastic Four, really solid issue of Fantastic Four that debuts a new threat and villain. Punisher #4, a really solid conclusion to this introduction of our new Punisher. Avengers Twilight keeps getting better and keeps getting incredibly impressive. Miles Morales' Spider-Man starts pulling all the threads together for a climactic conclusion to Cody Ziegler's run. Amazing Spider-Man execution was poor, but the whole end result of the gang war is something I can get excited for. Spider-Punk Arms Race, decent enough story, but really great artwork there. What If Venom? It was alright, but it didn't really quite wow me. Not the way Rare Flavors did. Rare Flavors, issue #4, pick of the week, cover of the week, smell of the week went to Savage Sword of Conan. Rare Flavors, #4. That's it. That's the real deal. Anyway, thank you again for watching the video. Like, share, subscribe. Let us know in the comments what you're reading, what you're digging, all that stuff I've already said. So I guess I just got this to say. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading. Station. Pop, pop, boom!